Okay, so this is a review for the Daredevil Director's Cut. To start off, I like the movie. I think it's a good movie on its own, but I'm going to get into a few nitpicks, and these are nitpicks that I find with adaptation purposes. Uh, what I've read of Daredevil outside of this film is Volume 2 of Daredevil, of Frank Miller's Daredevil Visionaries. I do own more Daredevil than I've read. I own all of the Frank Miller Visionaries, 1 through 3. Uh, I own Kevin Smith's Daredevil Visionaries. I own Born Again. I own a 2-issue kind of small trade from Frank Miller's run called Child's Play, which is also collected in Volume 2. And I've torrented the first volume of Mark Waid's run. Now, I've bought the first 2 issues of Mark Waid's run, and Mark Waid does an excellent job on it, but I haven't read any more of it. I plan to read what I have on my computer, which is issues 1 through 17. Anyway, there are a few just weird things that I have with this movie. Bullseye. Why is Bullseye Irish? I get that Colin Farrell is Irish, and I guess they just thought that he was the best guy for the part, but I don't get why he is Irish. But if he wasn't Irish, we wouldn't have had the awesome House of Pain song, so I can't really complain about that. Also, the bullseye on his forehead. Why? Just why? I don't understand why they couldn't have just had him like he is. Without the bullseye on his forehead, just had him like he is. I get that maybe doing the full jumpsuit costume with the mask and everything might have been kind of silly, but they straight up did Daredevil's costume and it looked good. Well, they kind of straight up did it. The D's on his chest aren't as big as they usually are, and I think that's just because they were afraid of people making fun of it. Superhero costumes weren't as prevalent back then as they were now, which I get that. But you engraved a bullseye onto his forehead to make it more realistic? I don't really get it. Colin Farrell's performance as Bullseye I thought was really, really good because Bullseye is psychotic. He clearly enjoys killing people, and that's why he's a hitman, and it's just kind of an excuse to kill people. And he does a really good job at looking like he's just in sheer bliss as he's mutilating these people with objects. And I thought that Colin Farrell did a terrific job with it. Kingpin. I think that Michael Clark Duncan was miscast for Kingpin. And he tried. I really understand he tried really hard to get down the sophistication that Kingpin gives off in the comics, where you believe that this guy is a high-class member of society, who kind of just gets everyone to do his dirty work for him, which he does that throughout the entire movie, and at the end, he takes on Daredevil by himself, which is just kind of a character contradiction, not just for an adaptation, but for what you've established throughout the entire movie, that this guy hired a hitman to kill Daredevil, to kill Nicholas Nachios first, and then Elektra, and then Daredevil. And in Daredevil's origin, he hires a hitman to kill Matt Murdock's dad. But then you just go ahead and face Daredevil on your own. Just send all the guards home. Kingpin would never do that. And it was just kind of jarring while I was sitting there watching it. I know that people really didn't like Ben Affleck's performance. I'm a big Ben Affleck fan. I think he's a good actor. Even when he's put in terrible stuff, I think he's a good actor. I loved him in Chasing Amy. I loved him in Mallrats when he was just playing a scumbag. And I loved him in this. I think he did a terrific job at just really subtle mannerisms when he was playing Matt Murdock. It really sold you that this guy is blind. It really did. And that leaves us with the fourth main character, Elektra, played by Jennifer Gardner. Oh god, it was just bad. I didn't like her as an adaptation of the original character from the comics. Elektra is supposed to seem cold, which you don't want to do that when you're cramming Elektra into this kind of time space. Because in the comics, she shows up and she's cold and almost kills Matt Murdock. But then you have a flashback where they do fall in love. And when you're trying to cram both of those storylines into one timeline, I can get where the inconsistencies can pop up. But you're trying to cram all of this into one movie. Elektra should have been saved for a sequel when you already have the established character of Matt Murdock. Elektra didn't show up in the comics until like issue maybe 100. Somewhere around there. When Frank Miller got on the book. And Daredevil had been established, of course, for 100 issues before Elektra was even introduced. So I think that there should have been maybe some flashbacks to him at college after the whole thing with his dad. You should have cut to him at college, he meets Elektra there, and then you move on to him being Daredevil. But then you would have had a 3-hour-long movie, and I can get where you want to budget time well. And I guess if producers are hounding you, do the Elektra story, this is the best way to do it. But I guess I'm just thinking about this without going back and thinking, okay, this is a post-Batman and Robin movie where producers are only slightly letting go of their control over the movie and the screenwriting and the directing. If the producers say that they want Elektra in the movie, Elektra is going to be in the movie, no question about it. And this is the best they could do with putting all of this in one movie, and I applaud them for that. But I think that the logical choice would have been to leave Elektra for a sequel. Jennifer Gardner doesn't even attempt to do a slightly kind of Greek accent. She just uses her American accent, and it's really jarring when you hear that she's Greek. Even the guy who played her dad sounded slightly foreign. I am not sure if he sounded Greek, because the only time I've seen things set in Greece is adaptations of like the Odyssey, and they speak in British accents, and that's jarring. But I'll let Craig Ferguson talk about that. I just think you could have picked someone else better for the role than Jennifer Gardner. I'm not sure who, If you have an idea of who could play Elektra better than Jennifer Garner, leave it in the comments because I'd love to hear about it. Uh, all around, it's a really good movie. The director's cut is a really good movie. The theatrical cut is a. I haven't seen it in so long, I don't even remember. The Coolio bits were astounding. I thought, how could you cut that out of the movie? Of all the things you could cut, why would you cut that out? That's such an integral part of the plot. That's so important. Why would you cut that out? But all around, I thought it was a good movie. The soundtrack is okay. It's very much a 2003, 2004 soundtrack. You have the Evanescence in there. You have the Nickelback in there. You have what is now considered emo. Just kind of the rock scene in 2003, 2004. The Evanescence songs were good. Especially the scene in the rain. I almost cried. That was a great funeral scene. And the House of Pain song was awesome. But everything else just kind of seemed a bit jarring, a bit out of place, where you have, you're introducing Kingpin, who runs all the crime in New York City, and he's supposed to be this sophisticated character, and you're playing, like, gangster rap. It just seems out of place, and it just kind of seems like dull, generic, kind of brooding rock music, and I feel like there could have been a lot more diversity in the soundtrack, but I don't really have any specific examples. Anyway, that's why I thought of Daredevil. The director's cut is a really good movie. It's a great superhero movie. The special effects are, yeah, it's cheesy. It's at the time where CGI wasn't quite there yet. But it was a good movie. I definitely recommend watching it if you want to get into Daredevil. Watch this and then read Volume 2 of the Frank Miller Visionaries series, because those are some great issues. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the movie. And until next time, this is Alaska, signing off.